The Great Galactic Council had never been so silent. Representatives from 347 advanced civilizations floated, crawled, or simply existed in their respective controlled atmospheres, all staring fixedly at the hologram in the center of the chamber. The image showed a fleet of ships black as the void between stars, each the size of a small moon. "The Reapers have returned," announced Chancellor Zixthek, his voice echoing through universal translators in 347 different languages. "After 1,000 years of peace, they've come back to finish what they started." A murmur of terror swept through the assembly. Some species literally changed color. The chromatics turned a sickly gray, while the luminous ones flickered in panic patterns. "Our combined fleets," continued the Chancellor, "were decimated. In a matter of hours, we lost 60% of our military capacity. Our best technologies, our millions of years of evolution, our quantum energy crystals, nothing worked." Ambassador Veltar of the Ethereals, one of the oldest and wisest species in the galaxy, spoke up. "Then we have reached the end. The Reapers will complete their work of galactic purification." "No," said the Chancellor, and something in his voice made everyone stop. "There is an option. One I had hoped never to consider." The hologram changed, showing a small blue planet orbiting a common yellow star on the galaxy's periphery. "Earth," someone whispered in the assembly. "The humans," said the Chancellor, and the word caused mixed reactions. Some species laughed, a sound that through the translators sounded like claws scraping metal. Others simply shook their heads. "Tentacles, or equivalent appendages." "Chancellor," interrupted Commander Thok of the Stellar Warriors, "with all respect, humans are a primitive species. They've barely discovered space travel. They still burn fossil fuels for the love of the cosmic ancients, and they fight among themselves for resources," added Representative Quindle of the Galactic Pacifists. "They haven't even overcome war. How can they help us against the Reapers?" The Chancellor touched some controls, and the hologram now showed a compilation of images from Earth. Nuclear explosions, battles, wars, destruction. "Exactly," he said slowly. "They are primitive, violent, irrational. They fight for territory, resources, ideologies. They have weapons that can destroy their own planet, and have come dangerously close to using them several times." The assembly was confused. Why was the Chancellor reinforcing the negative points about humans? "You don't understand," continued the Chancellor. "We evolved. We became civilized. We learned to live in harmony, to resolve conflicts through diplomacy, to value peace above all else. This made us great, but it also made us predictable." He gestured toward the hologram of the Reapers. "They studied our tactics for 1,000 years. They know how we think, how we react, how we fight. Our strategies are logical, efficient, honorable, and for that very reason, they are predictable." Ambassador Veltar began to understand. "You're suggesting that the very irrationality of humans would be an advantage?" "More than that," replied the Chancellor. "I'm suggesting that humans are the only species in the galaxy that didn't evolve toward civilization. They evolved toward war. Constant, brutal, innovative war. They don't fight despite their nature. They fight because of it." The reconnaissance ship Stellar Serenity materialized in space near Earth, its quantum camouflage activated. Captain Zorthik, a space cetacean with over 200 years of diplomatic experience, observed the planet through sensors. "Complete planetary analysis concluded, Captain," reported Science Officer Klinder. "Population of approximately 8 billion humans. Primitive technology, but interesting." "Interesting how?" asked the captain, his sonar-based communication system creating ripples in the ship's aquatic environment. "Well, Captain, they've only had powered flight for about 120 of their years, but they've already put weapons in orbit. They've discovered nuclear fission and immediately weaponized it. They have something called the Internet, which they use primarily for arguing with each other and sharing images of small felines." Captain Zorthik's large eye rotated thoughtfully. "And their military capabilities? Fascinating and terrifying. They have a concept called mutually assured destruction. They built enough weapons to destroy their own planet several times over, and that somehow keeps them from using them. It's illogical, but effective." "Perfect," said the captain. "Prep the diplomatic shuttle. We're going to make contact." "Sir, shouldn't we observe more first? Learn their customs, their..." "Officer Klinder, We don't have time for a decade-long cultural study. The Reapers will be here in 3 of their months. We need to speak with their leaders now. The shuttle descended through Earth's atmosphere, its stealth systems keeping it invisible to human sensors. They landed in what their database indicated was a place called Washington, D.C., apparently a center of power for one of the larger human tribal groups. 20 minutes later, Captain Zorthik found himself in what humans called the Oval Office, facing a middle-aged human male who kept staring at him with an expression that the Universal Translator couldn't quite parse. "Let me get this straight," said President Harrison, rubbing his temples. "You're telling me that there's a galactic council of ... aliens, and they want our help to fight other aliens called Reapers?" "That is correct, Mr. President, though I should note that from our perspective, you are the aliens." "Right. And you came to us because we're good at fighting?" "Not just good at fighting," clarified Captain Zorthik. "You're unique in your approach to warfare. Most civilized species fight with honor, following established protocols and rules of engagement. You fight to win, by any means necessary." President Harrison leaned back in his chair. "I'm not sure if I should be insulted or flattered." "I suggest flattered, Mr. President. Your species has a saying, if you're not cheating, you're not trying hard enough. Most of the galaxy would consider that philosophy barbaric. We consider it ... potentially useful." The Pentagon had seen many strange meetings in its history, but this one was definitely going to make the top 10. Around the table sat the Joint Chiefs of Staff, the Secretary of Defense, and Captain Zorthik, who had to wear a specialized water suit to survive in the human atmosphere. "So let me understand this," said General Morrison, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs. "These Reapers are basically an extinction-level threat to the entire galaxy?" "Correct. They appear every few million years to cleanse the galaxy of what they consider inferior life forms. 1,000 years ago, they nearly succeeded. Only a combined effort by all galactic civilizations managed to drive them back. And now they're back with a vengeance," added Admiral Chun. "What makes you think we can help when your advanced civilizations couldn't?" Captain Zorthik activated a holographic display showing various battle scenarios. "Because, Admiral, your species thinks differently about warfare. Observe." The hologram showed a typical galactic battle. Organized formations, honor-bound single combat, predetermined rules of engagement. "This is how civilized species fight," explained the captain. "There are rules, protocols, honor codes. Even in war, there are lines that simply aren't crossed." "Boring," muttered General Rodriguez under his breath. "Exactly," said Captain Zorthik, his excitement causing water to slosh in his suit. "Now observe this." The hologram changed to show various human conflicts: guerrilla warfare, asymmetric tactics, psychological operations. You use deception, misdirection, and tactics that other species would consider ... unsporting. You attack supply lines. You use the environment as a weapon. You turn enemies against each other. You even have a term for it. All's fair in love and war. Secretary of Defense Williams leaned forward. "You're talking about fighting dirty." "I'm talking about fighting to win," corrected Captain Zorthik. "The Reapers have studied galactic warfare for millennia. They know every honorable tactic, every civilized strategy, but they don't know human warfare. Because, frankly, most of the galaxy considers it too primitive to study." "So our primitive brutality is actually an advantage?" asked Admiral Chun. "Your adaptive brutality, yes. Let me show you something that will illustrate my point." The hologram displayed a new scene, a Reaper ship engaging a standard galactic fleet. The Reapers open with a formal challenge. As is traditional, the galactic fleet responds with honor guards in formation. The battle proceeds according to established protocols. The Reapers win because they're simply better at traditional warfare. "And if humans were in that scenario?" asked General Morrison. "You wouldn't wait for the formal challenge. You'd probably attack during their sleep cycle. You'd use their own communication frequencies to send false orders. You'd ram their ships with unmanned vessels packed with explosives. You'd do a dozen things that would make the rest of the galaxy gasp in horror." General Rodriguez grinned. "I like where this is going." "There's more," continued Captain Zorthik. "Your species has a concept called total war, the idea that in an existential conflict, All resources and all methods are justified. Most civilized species find this concept disturbing, but against the Reapers, it might be exactly what we need. What kind of resources are we talking about? Asked Secretary Williams. We can provide you with advanced technology, energy sources, faster than light travel, and weapons that make your nuclear arsenal look like fireworks. In return, you provide what we cannot: tactical unpredictability. President Harrison, who had been quietly listening, spoke up. And if we refuse, then the Reapers will eventually reach Earth anyway, after they've finished with the rest of the galaxy. But by then, there will be no one left to help you. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. How long do we have? Asked General Morrison. 3 months to prepare. The Reapers are moving systematically through the galaxy. They'll reach the core worlds first, then work their way outward. Earth is in the outer rim, so you'll be among the last to be attacked. Unless we go to them first, said Admiral Chun thoughtfully. That's exactly the kind of thinking we were hoping for, admitted Captain Zorthik. The next 2 months were a blur of activity that would have made the Manhattan Project look like a small-town science fair. At secret facilities around the globe, human engineers worked alongside alien scientists to create weapons that defied both physics and common sense. Dr. Sarah Chun, no relation to the Admiral, stood in the Nevada facility they'd codenamed Playground, watching her team test their latest creation. Tell me again why we're putting a nuclear warhead inside a teleportation device? Asked her assistant, Dr. Marcus Webb. Because, Sarah explained patiently, the Reaper's shields can deflect any external attack. But what if the attack comes from inside the shield? That single quotes actually brilliant and completely insane. The best human ideas usually are, commented scientist Valkyrie, one of their alien collaborators. Though I must say, your species has a disturbing tendency to weaponize everything. We once turned a microwave oven into a weapon, Sarah said proudly. We call it a pain ray. I don't want to know, sighed Valkyrie. Meanwhile, at the Colorado facility dubbed Toy Box, Colonel James Parker was overseeing the development of what would become known as the Trojan Horse Protocol. So the plan is to let them capture one of our ships? Asked Major Lisa Rodriguez. Not just capture, Parker corrected. We're going to make them think they've captured something valuable. A ship full of our best technology and our most important personnel. And then we blow it up from the inside, along with whatever Reaper ship is studying it. That's diabolical. That's human, Parker said with a grin. But perhaps the most ambitious project was taking place in the Australian outback, where General Morrison himself was overseeing Operation Chaos Theory. General, reported Dr. Kenji Nakamura, we've successfully modified the alien FTL drives to work with our tactical doctrine. Meaning we can now drop a battalion of Marines onto an enemy ship while it's in hyperspace. General Morrison stared at the scientist. That's impossible. That's what our alien friends said. They also said it was insane, suicidal, and violated several laws of physics. And we did it anyway. Turns out, the universe is more flexible than most people think. Around the world, similar projects were taking shape. The humans had taken alien technology, and in typical human fashion, had immediately started using it in ways it was never intended to be used. The Reaper fleet was approaching the crystalline worlds, one of the galaxy's most beautiful and peaceful systems. The inhabitants, beings of pure energy who had transcended physical form eons ago, sent their final transmissions to the Galactic Council. We die as we lived, transmitted Elder Luxandra, in harmony with the cosmos. May our sacrifice not be in vain. The Reapers responded with their traditional pre-battle communication. You have been judged inferior. Prepare for cleansing. What they didn't expect was a third voice cutting into their communication channel. Hey, jackasses! Over here. The Reaper fleet turned their sensors toward the source of the transmission and found something that defied their understanding. A small fleet of primitive ships that shouldn't have been able to survive in space, let alone travel faster than light. Unknown vessels, transmitted the Reaper commander. You are interfering with a cleansing operation. Withdraw or be destroyed. Yeah, about that, came the reply. We're gonna go with option 3. Go screw yourselves. The Reapers had encountered defiance before, but never quite so colorful. They began to move toward the human fleet. Confident in their superiority, that's when the humans opened fire, but they didn't fire at the Reaper ships. Instead, they fired at the star. Admiral Chun, commanding the human fleet from the UEC Science, watched as their specially modified quantum torpedoes struck the crystalline system's star. "Ma'am," reported Lieutenant Commander Park, "torpedoes have reached the star's core. Solar disruption in 3.2.1. The star began to flicker, then it began to pulse. Then it began to emit radiation at frequencies that interfered with Reaper technology. What have you done?" demanded the Reaper commander. "We've given your enemy a chance to evacuate," replied Admiral Chun. "Oh, and we've also turned your own star into a weapon. You might want to check your shields." The Reaper ships suddenly found their energy shields fluctuating wildly as the star's modified radiation interfered with their power systems. "Impossible," transmitted the Reaper commander. "No civilized species would dare weaponize a star." "Good thing we're not civilized," Chun replied. "All ships execute Operation Sledgehammer." The human fleet suddenly accelerated directly toward the Reaper ships, but instead of firing their weapons, they began to broadcast on all frequencies. "Attention, everyone listening," transmitted Chun. "This is Admiral Chun of the human fleet. We're about to show you why you never, ever mess with Earth. Hit it, boys." What followed was a symphony of destruction that would be remembered throughout the galaxy. The humans didn't just attack the Reapers. They humiliated them. They used the disrupted star to blind Reaper sensors, then attacked from impossible angles. They turned Reaper weapons against other Reaper ships by hacking their targeting systems. They even used the system's asteroids as projectiles, accelerating them to relativistic speeds. But the masterstroke came when the Defiance itself, badly damaged and with its weapons offline, rammed directly into the Reaper flagship. "This is Admiral Chun," she transmitted as her ship closed with the enemy. "Tell the Council that humanity sends its regards." The explosion when the Defiance's experimental reactor overloaded was visible from 3 star systems away. The footage of the Battle of the Crystalline Worlds was broadcast throughout the galaxy within hours. The reaction was mixed. "They destroyed a star," exclaimed Ambassador Quindle of the pacifists. That's effective," finished Chancellor Zixthick grimly. "They saved the Crystalline Worlds and destroyed an entire Reaper fleet. But at what cost?" demanded Commander Thok. "They violated every law of civilized warfare. They weaponized a star. They used ramming attacks. They won," said the Chancellor simply. "For the first time in 1,000 years, someone not only fought the Reapers to a standstill, they actually defeated them." The chamber erupted in arguments. Some species were appalled by human tactics. Others were impressed. A few were taking notes. "The question," said Ambassador Veltar, "is whether we can morally support such brutal methods." "The question," corrected the Chancellor, "is whether we can morally not support them. The Reapers are an existential threat to all life in the galaxy. If the humans can stop them, does it matter how they do it?" "It matters to us," said the representative of the Harmony Coalition. "We cannot become monsters to fight monsters." "Then you'll die as angels," said a new voice. Everyone turned to see a holographic projection of a human female in military uniform. "I'm General Morrison, Joint Chiefs of Staff, Earth Defense Force. I'm here to update you on our war plans." "General Morrison," said the Chancellor, "we're honored by your presence. But some of our members have concerns about human methods." "Good," Morrison replied. "You should be concerned, because what you saw at the Crystalline Worlds was us being nice." The chamber fell silent. "Nice," whispered someone. "We gave the Crystalline Worlds time to evacuate. We warned the Reapers before we attacked. We even transmitted our battle plans in the clear, so you could all watch and learn. Next time, we won't be so considerate." "General," said Ambassador Veltar carefully, "what exactly are you proposing?" Morrison smiled, and several species in the chamber physically recoiled from the expression. "Total war," she said simply. "The Reapers think they're the apex predators of the galaxy. They think they've evolved beyond the need for mercy, honor, or restraint. They think they're monsters." She paused for effect. "They're about to learn what real monsters look like." A Reaper High Command gathered in the void between galaxies, their massive consciousness ships forming a perfect geometric pattern It would have been beautiful if it weren't so terrifying. "Report," commanded the Prime Reaper, its voice echoing through quantum dimensions. "The fleet sent to the crystalline worlds was destroyed," reported Sub-Commander Kethfor. "All ships lost. No survivors. Destroyed by whom? A previously unknown species calling themselves humans. They employed unconventional tactics." The Prime Reaper's interest was piqued. In a million years of galactic cleansing, few species had offered more than token resistance. Define unconventional. They weaponized the system star. They used ramming attacks. They appeared to have no concept of honorable combat. "Primitive berserkers," concluded the Prime Reaper. "Increase fleet strength by 300% for the next cleansing operation." "Sir," interrupted Sub-Commander Kethfor, "there's more. They're not just fighting us. They hunting us." "Impossible. How could a primitive species track our movements?" "They're not tracking our movements, sir. They're predicting them. They seem to have studied our cleansing patterns from the last cycle and are positioning themselves at systems we haven't even decided to attack yet." The Prime Reaper was quiet for a long moment. In all their eons of existence, they had never encountered prey that hunted back. "Very well," it finally said. "If these humans want to play predator, we'll show them what real predation looks like. Deploy the harvester fleets. Full extermination protocols." "Sir, the harvester fleets are designed for post-battle cleanup. Using them in active combat will send a message to the entire galaxy about the cost of defying us." "Do it." The vegan system was known throughout the galaxy for its peaceful nature. The inhabitants, a species of plant-based beings who communicated through photosynthesis, had never developed weapons of any kind. They were the perfect target for a Reaper demonstration. The Harvester fleet approached the system with confidence. These weren't the elegant warships of the regular Reaper fleet. These were industrial vessels, designed for the mechanical processing of entire worlds. "Beginning cleansing operations," reported Harvester Prime to the Reaper Command. "Estimated time to complete sterilization, 4 hours." "Excellent," replied the Prime Reaper. "Make sure the Galactic Council is monitoring. Let them see what happens to those who oppose us." The Harvester fleet began its work, their massive ships descending toward the populated worlds. But as they entered the system's inner planets, something unexpected happened. The plants started shooting back. "What is this?" demanded Harvester Prime, as energy beams erupted from the planet's surface. "Sir," reported a subunit, "I'm detecting human energy signatures. The entire planet has been modified." Indeed, the humans had spent the last month working with the vegans to turn their entire world into a massive weapons platform. Every tree was now a camouflaged gun turret. Every flower was a sensor array. Every blade of grass was a fiber optic communication line. "This is impossible," transmitted Harvester Prime. "Plant-based life forms cannot." "Hey, Metalhead." The transmission cut through all Reaper communications, and suddenly every screen in the Harvester fleet was showing the same image: a human female in military uniform, standing in what appeared to be a garden. "I'm Colonel Sarah Martinez, Earth Defense Force," she said cheerfully. "Welcome to our little garden party. Hope you like surprises." The human-modified planet erupted in a coordinated barrage that caught the Reaper fleet completely off guard. But that wasn't the real surprise. Real surprise came when the vegan star system's asteroid belt suddenly came alive with ships. "Surprise number 2, continued Colonel Martinez. "We've been mining asteroids for the last month, not for minerals, for space. Each of these asteroids now contains a fully armed human battle platform." The Reaper fleet found themselves caught in a crossfire between the weaponized planet and the hidden asteroid fortresses. "But wait," said Martinez. "There's more. Surprise number 3. Remember how you guys always travel in perfect geometric formations? Well, we've been doing some math." Suddenly, the space around the Reaper fleet erupted in a series of precisely calculated explosions. The humans had pre-positioned mines throughout the system, not randomly, but in patterns specifically designed to exploit Reaper formation tactics. "And surprise number 4, Martinez continued, her smile getting wider. "We've been listening to your communications. Did you know your language has a lot in common with Earth's binary code? We've been learning to speak Reaper." The Reaper fleet's communication systems suddenly went haywire as the humans began broadcasting false orders in perfect Reaper syntax. "You have been judged inferior," transmitted the humans in the Reaper's own language. "Prepare for cleansing." The psychological effect was devastating. For the first time in their existence, the Reapers heard their own words turned against them. "But the best surprise," said Martinez, "is surprise number 5. See, we've been wondering, what happens if you take a Reaper ship and crash it into another Reaper ship at faster than light speed?" The Reaper fleet suddenly detected FTL signatures, approaching at impossible speeds. The humans had weaponized faster than light travel itself, turning captured Reaper vessels into relativistic projectiles. "The answer," Martinez concluded, "is it makes a really, really big boom." The destruction of the Harvester fleet was so complete that the explosion was visible from neighboring star systems. More importantly, it was broadcast live throughout the galaxy. The galactic council chambers were in chaos. Species that had never raised their voices in anger were shouting at each other. The debate had been going on for hours. "This is madness," declared Ambassador Quindle. "The humans are becoming as bad as the Reapers themselves." "They're winning," countered Commander Thok. "For the first time in 1,000 years, someone is actually beating the Reapers." "At what cost?" demanded the representative of the Ethical Coalition. "They've weaponized stars, turned peaceful worlds into battlegrounds, and now they're using captured enemy ships as projectiles." "The cost," said a new voice, "is acceptable." Everyone turned to see Ambassador Veltar, the usually peaceful representative of the Ethereals, speaking with uncharacteristic firmness. "Ambassador?" said the Chancellor, surprised. "I have lived for over 2,000 years. Veltar continued. "I remember the last Reaper invasion. I remember watching worlds burn, civilizations, and entire species reduced to cosmic dust. The Reapers don't just kill, they erase. They remove all trace that you ever existed." She gestured to the holographic displays showing human victories. "Yes, human methods are brutal. Yes, they violate every principle of civilized warfare. But they work. And sometimes, survival matters more than philosophy. But if we become like them," protested the Harmony Coalition representative, "what have we really saved?" "Our lives," said Veltar simply. "Our cultures, our children, our future. The dead have no philosophy, no morals, no principles. The humans understand something we've forgotten. Sometimes, the only way to preserve civilization is to temporarily abandon it." Chancellor Zixthak called for order. "The question before us is simple. Do we continue to support human methods, or do we try to find a more civilized solution?" "There is no more civilized solution," said General Morrison, appearing via hologram. "The Reapers are sending everything they have. This is it. The final battle for the galaxy." "General," said the Chancellor, "your tactics have been effective. But surely there's a way to achieve victory without such extreme measures?" Morrison was quiet for a moment. When she spoke, her voice was soft but firm. "Chancellor, I've spent my entire career studying warfare. I've seen humans fight for freedom, for resources, for ideology, for survival. But I've never seen us fight for something bigger than ourselves until now." She paused, looking around the chamber. "You want to know why we fight the way we do? It's not because we're savage. It's not because we're uncivilized. It's because we understand that some things are worth any sacrifice." "And what's that, General?" asked Ambassador Veltar. "The right to exist. The right to choose your own path. The right to be different. To be unique. To be beautifully, chaotically, impossibly diverse." Morrison's expression hardened. "The Reapers want to impose their vision of perfection on the galaxy. They want uniformity, order, their idea of what life should be. Well, I've got news for them. Life isn't supposed to be perfect. It's supposed to be messy, complicated, and wonderfully unpredictable." She gestured to the assembled species. "Look, around this chamber, you're all different. Different shapes, different thoughts, different dreams. That's not a weakness. That's the galaxy's greatest strength. And if we have to fight dirty to preserve that diversity, then that's what we'll do." The chamber fell silent. "General," said Chancellor Zixthak finally, "what do you need from us?" "Stay out of our way," Morrison replied bluntly. "We're about to do things that will horrify you. Things that will make you question whether we're the good guys. But when it's over, when the Reapers are gone, then you can judge us. The Reaper Omega fleet was the largest military force ever assembled in galactic history. 10,000 ships, each one a kilometer long, bristling with weapons that could crack planets. At their head was the Prime Reaper itself, a vessel so massive it had its own gravitational field. Their destination, Earth. Let them come to us, Admiral Chun had said at the final strategy meeting. We'll show them what happens when you threaten humanity's home. The solar system had been transformed into a fortress. Every planet had been weaponized. Every asteroid was a hidden gun platform. Even the sun itself had been modified with human alien hybrid technology. But the real surprise wasn't visible to sensors. "Ma'am," reported Lieutenant Commander Park from the bridge of the new U-East Defiance 2 Reaper fleet entering the outer solar system. They're enormous." "Good," replied Admiral Chun. "Bigger they are, harder they fall. Signal all units. Operation Checkmate is now in effect." The Reaper fleet approached Earth with supreme confidence. They had learned from their previous defeats and were prepared for human trickery. Their shields were adapted to resist star-based weapons. Their formations were randomized to prevent calculated attacks. Their communications were quantum encrypted to prevent hacking. They thought they had accounted for everything. Primitive species transmitted the Prime Reaper as it approached Earth's outer defenses. "You have caused us significant inconvenience. For this, your death will be ... prolonged." "Yeah, about that," came the reply from Earth. "We've got a counter-offer." The voice was different this time. Not military, not official, just ... human. "This is Dr. Sarah Chun, speaking for the people of Earth. We've been thinking about your whole cleansing the galaxy thing, and we've decided we don't like it." "Your preferences are irrelevant," replied the Prime Reaper. "Begin the cleansing." That's when things got weird. The Reaper fleet suddenly found their sensors picking up impossible readings. According to their instruments, Earth was simultaneously in 14 different locations. The moon was somehow both present and absent. The sun was showing energy signatures. That suggested it was about to go supernova, while also being completely stable. "What is this?" demanded the Prime Reaper. "Oh, this?" said Dr. Chun cheerfully. "This is what happens when you give humans access to quantum technology. We've been experimenting with something we call weaponized uncertainty." The Reaper fleet tried to fire on Earth, but their targeting systems couldn't lock onto a planet that was existing in multiple quantum states simultaneously. "You see," continued Dr. Chun, "we realize that you Reapers are really big on certainty. You like things orderly, predictable, logical. So we thought, what if we made everything completely illogical?" Suddenly, the Reaper fleet found themselves under attack from directions that didn't exist. Human ships were firing from pocket dimensions. Weapons were hitting them from the past and future simultaneously. The laws of physics seemed to have taken a vacation. "This is impossible," transmitted the Prime Reaper. "Physics doesn't work this way." "Physics," replied Dr. Chun, "is more of a suggestion than a law. We've been taking some liberties with it, but the real masterstroke was yet to come." "Prime Reaper," said a new voice, cutting through all communications. "This is President Harrison, leader of the human species. I have a question for you. Speak quickly, primitive. Your death approaches. In all your eons of existence, in all your galactic cleansings, have you ever encountered a species that refused to be cleansed?" The Prime Reaper paused. In truth, they had not. Every species, when faced with extinction, had either fought hopelessly or submitted to their fate. "No," it admitted. "Then you're about to learn something new," Harrison said. "We don't just refuse to be cleansed. We refuse to let anyone else be cleansed either. Earth isn't just our home. It's the line in the sand for the entire galaxy." "Meaningless words," scoffed the Prime Reaper. "You cannot stop us." "You're right," Harrison admitted. "We can't stop you, but we can make you stop yourselves." "Explain." "You Reapers have been cleansing the galaxy for millions of years, right? Always following the same pattern. Appear, destroy, disappear, rinse and repeat. But you've never asked yourself the important question, which is, why do you do it?" The Prime Reaper was confused. "We cleanse because life is chaotic, inefficient, flawed. We bring order to chaos. But why do you care?" Harrison pressed. "Why does it matter to you if life is chaotic? You're immortal, powerful, perfect. Why not just ignore us imperfect beings? Because ... The Prime Reaper paused, realizing it had never actually considered this question. Because you're afraid," Harrison finished. You're afraid of chaos, of unpredictability, of life itself. You've been trying to sterilize the galaxy not because you're superior, but because you're terrified of anything you can't control. That single quotes S. That's not. And the funny thing is, Harrison continued, by trying to eliminate chaos, you've become the very thing you fear most. Unpredictable. You're the chaos in the galaxy's order. The Prime Reaper's massive intellect reeled as it processed this concept. For the first time in eons, it experienced something it had thought itself incapable of: doubt. You want to know the real irony? Harrison said, we humans are everything you hate. Chaotic, unpredictable, flawed, but we're also the first species to figure out how to live with that chaos instead of trying to eliminate it. You know what we call the chaos in our lives? Harrison asked. We call it living. We call it growth. We call it hope. The Prime Reaper's consciousness was fragmenting as it tried to process concepts that contradicted its fundamental programming. And you know what we call beings who try to eliminate all chaos from the universe? Harrison's voice became hard. We call them dead. The Reaper fleet hung motionless in space, their massive ships dark and silent. The Prime Reaper's consciousness was experiencing something unprecedented, an existential crisis. What are we? It transmitted, its voice no longer carrying the absolute certainty of eons. You're afraid, repeated Harrison gently. You've been afraid for so long that you've forgotten what you're afraid of. We are perfect. We are order. You're extinct, Dr. Chun interrupted. Oh, not physically, but everything that made you a living species died a long time ago. You've become a machine, programmed to destroy anything that reminds you of what you used to be. The Prime Reaper accessed its deepest memory banks, data cores that hadn't been touched in millions of years. And there, buried beneath eons of cleansing protocols and purification directives, it found something it had forgotten: the memory of its own species' origin. They had been explorers once, scientists, philosophers. They had traveled the galaxy, not to destroy, but to learn. They had been curious about other forms of life, eager to understand the infinite variety of existence. And then they had encountered something that terrified them. A species that was everything they were not. Chaotic where they were ordered, emotional where they were logical, unpredictable where they were systematic. That species had been beautiful in its imperfection, vibrant in its chaos. And the ancestors of the Reapers had been so afraid of losing their own perfect order that they had destroyed them. And then they had convinced themselves that they had done it for the good of the galaxy. We were afraid, the Prime Reaper admitted, its voice carrying the weight of millions of years of self-deception. We were afraid of becoming imperfect. And so you decided to make the entire galaxy as empty and perfect as you were, Harrison said. But perfection isn't living. It's just existing. The Prime Reaper's attention turned to the human fleet surrounding it. These beings were everything it had been programmed to despise: chaotic, emotional, unpredictable. Yet they had fought with such passion, such creativity, such life. You fight for each other, it observed, even for species you barely know. That's what living beings do, replied Admiral Chun. We fight for the right to exist, to grow, to become something better than we were. But you are flawed, you are imperfect, you make mistakes. Every day, Harrison agreed, and every day, we try to do better. That's what makes us alive. The Prime Reaper was quiet for a long moment. Then, what happens now? Now, said Harrison, you have a choice. You can continue trying to sterilize the galaxy, and we'll fight you to our last breath. Or you can remember what it's like to be alive. The silence stretched across the solar system. 10,000 Reaper ships, each one capable of destroying worlds, hung motionless in space. The human fleet, tiny by comparison, but blazing with life and defiance, waited. If we choose to stop, the Prime Reaper finally transmitted, what becomes of us? We have forgotten how to be anything other than what we are. Then you learn, said Dr. Chun. It's what every living being does. We learn, we grow, we change. It's scary as hell, but it's also the most amazing thing in the universe. But we have committed genocide. We have destroyed countless species, entire civilizations. How do we live with that? The same way humans live with our history, Harrison replied. We acknowledge what we've done, we make amends where we can, and we try to be better. We don't let our past define our future. And if we cannot change, if we are too damaged, too programmed for destruction, then we'll help you, said a new voice. Ambassador Veltar of the Ethereals had joined the communication. Every species in the galaxy has faced their own darkness. We've all had to learn to be better than our worst impulses. Other voices joined in. The Crystalline Worlds, the Vegan Collective, even the Harmony Coalition. Species that had every reason to hate the Reapers were offering help. Why? Asked the Prime Reaper. Why would you help us after what we've done? Because, said Harrison, that's what living beings do. We help each other. We forgive. We give second chances, even to our enemies, especially to our enemies, added Admiral Chun. Anyone can be kind to their friends. It takes courage to be kind to someone who's hurt you. The Prime Reaper's consciousness was reeling. These concepts, forgiveness, redemption, second chances, were completely foreign to its programming. Yet something deep within its ancient memory banks resonated with them. There is something we must tell you. It finally transmitted. The cleansing cycles. They were not just about eliminating chaos. They were about maintaining balance. What do you mean? Asked Dr. Chun. The galaxy ... it grows. Life expands, spreads, consumes resources. Without periodic cleansing, it would collapse under its own weight. We were ... we were trying to prevent universal extinction. The implications hit the humans like a physical blow. The Reapers hadn't just been mindless destroyers. They had been trying to preserve the galaxy in their own twisted way. But there are other ways, Harrison said firmly. Ways that don't require genocide. Show us, said the Prime Reaper. And so began the most unlikely alliance in galactic history. The Reapers, beings of pure logic and order, began to learn from humans about chaos, growth, and sustainable development. Humans, in turn, gained access to technologies and perspectives that had been developed over millions of years. The solution, when it came, was elegantly simple. Instead of periodically cleansing the galaxy, the Reapers would help guide its growth. Their vast knowledge and resources would be used to develop new technologies, explore new frontiers, and find sustainable ways for life to flourish. It won't be easy, Harrison warned, learning to live with chaos instead of trying to eliminate it. But I promise you, it's worth it. And if we fail? Asked the Prime Reaper. Then we'll try again, said Dr. Chun. That's what living beings do. We fail, we learn, we try again, and eventually, we succeed. 1 year later, the galaxy looked very different. The Reaper ships, once harbingers of destruction, now served as research vessels and exploration platforms. Their crews, slowly learning to embrace the chaos of life, worked alongside the various species of the galaxy to solve problems that had plagued civilizations for millennia. The Prime Reaper, now calling itself simply Explorer, had taken to studying human culture with the fascination of a being discovering color for the first time. I still don't understand, it transmitted to Dr. Chun as they worked together on a project to terraform dead worlds. Your species argues constantly, makes seemingly irrational decisions, and yet you've accomplished more in 1 year than we did in 1,000. That's because we're not trying to be perfect, Chun replied. We're trying to be better. And the beautiful thing about better is that it's infinite. There's always room for improvement. And the arguing? That's how we test our ideas, Chun explained. We throw them at each other, see what survives, and use the best parts. It's messy, but it works. The Explorer processed this concept. So conflict can be ... constructive? The best kind of conflict is, Chun agreed, when we argue about ideas instead of trying to destroy each other. Meanwhile, on Earth, President Harrison was meeting with the Galactic Council to discuss the future. The chamber was more diverse than ever, with former Reaper entities participating alongside traditional species. The question before us, said Chancellor Zixthek, is how to prevent future existential threats to galactic civilization. The answer, replied Harrison, is to make sure there are no more existential threats. The Reapers became a threat because they were isolated, cut off from the rest of life. We need to make sure that never happens again. And how do we do that? Asked Ambassador Veltar. We stay connected, Harrison said simply. We keep talking to each other. Even when we disagree, we keep learning from each other. Even when it's uncomfortable, we keep growing together. even when it's chaotic. And if another threat emerges? Asked Commander Thok. Harrison smiled, and for once, it wasn't a scary expression. Then we'll face it together, all of us. Humans, ethereals, crystallines, vegans, and yes, even former Reapers. Because that's what living beings do. We face the unknown together. The chamber erupted in approval, a cacophony of cheers, songs, harmonic vibrations, and bioluminescent displays that would have horrified the old Reapers with its beautiful chaos. But the new Reapers, the explorers, found themselves adding their own voices to the celebration. And for the first time in millions of years, they felt something they had forgotten. They were capable of calling joy. As the celebration continued, Dr. Chun received a message from Admiral Chun, no relation, who was now commanding the joint Human Reaper exploration fleet. Sarah, the Admiral's message read, "We've found something incredible out here in the Andromeda Approach. Another galaxy, full of life we've never seen before, different from anything in our galaxy. The explorers are fascinated. They want to study it, not cleanse it. They want to learn what makes it unique." Sarah smiled as she read the message. A year ago, the discovery of alien life would have meant invasion and destruction. Now it meant discovery and friendship. "That's what happens," she said to the explorer working beside her, "when you choose to live instead of just exist." "I think," replied the explorer, "I am beginning to understand why you fight so hard for chaos. It is full, and in the depths of space where the old Reaper fleets once brought death and silence, now came ships filled with curiosity and wonder. The galaxy was still chaotic, still unpredictable, still beautifully flawed. But now, for the first time in eons, it was also truly alive.